Breaking news, the Los Angeles Dodgers have done it again. They bring in the top free agent reliever on the market, Tanner Scott, 4 years, $72 million. We'll analyze that deal and what it means for the rest of the market as we prepare for a busy week of baseball transactions. Make sure you hit that like and subscribe, and let's get started. And welcome into the MLB Hot Stove Daily here at the Upside Sports Network. My name is Michael. Appreciate you guys joining us early on a Sunday morning. We have some breaking news this morning to discuss. Tanner Scott, the closer who was seeking 4 years, $80 million at the outset of this offseason, ultimately gets a 4 year, $72 million deal with, you guessed it, the Los Angeles Dodgers. Dodgers once again get whoever they ultimately are targeting this offseason, with one exception being Devin Williams. But now they get that hole covered with Tanner Scott. Now that bullpen looks a lot better with Tanner Scott back there. I'd expect them to try to add one more arm. But for the most part, the Los Angeles Dodgers are pretty much done with their free agent shopping. They're going to agree to a deal at some point during spring training with Clayton Kershaw. He'll immediately go on the 60-day injury list at that point. But what an offseason the Dodgers have really had. Sure, they didn't get Juan Soto, but they've pretty much done everything else that they could have possibly dreamed of. They bring in Blake Snell to beef up that rotation. They beef up their outfield mix, bringing in Conforto and Teoscar Hernandez at their number, I might add as well. Then they bring in Kim to help out with their infield defense. They trade away some infield depth there in Gavin Lux to kind of free up some roster spots there. Then they bring in Roki Sasaki to help stabilize the rest of that rotation, and he's going to be there for a significant period of time. He's just going to be starting out as a pre-arb player since they just signed him, so they're going to have control of him for about 6 years. That rotation is looking absolutely great. I would say it's probably the best in Major League Baseball right now, as long as everybody is healthy. That's a big caveat there. The one weakness on their team heading into the day was Tanner Scott and that bullpen, but they get the job done. They were the favorites for Tanner Scott all along and ultimately get the job done. Now, if you guys had joined our live last night, we were discussing how far the Dodgers have really come this offseason, how much they've invested in this team, how they're the new evil empire. And, there were some people posting how, if with Tanner Scott, bringing them into people, or if they bring in Tanner Scott, will people lose their minds? I would say they're going to be, again, just say, hey, it's the Dodgers just being the Dodgers. At this point, the Dodgers are now that evil empire that we looked at the New York Yankees in the late 90s. That's the new evil empire in Major League Baseball. We saw the Warriors do this kind of in the NBA when they brought in Kevin Durant. The Heat did it when they brought in LeBron James and Chris Bosh. Yes, they are going to be the prohibitive favorites to win the World Series, but you still have to go out there and win the game. So we'll see if they can get to the job done. Injuries are going to be a bit of an issue for the Dodgers. They do have the depth now to overcome those injury issues, and I expect them to be a great, and I mean a great team. But even a great team like this is not going to go 162-0. They will still lose some games. They will still lose some series, and once they get to October, it's going to be all about, do they win the World Series or do they fall short? We'll have to see how they finish up. But for me, the Dodgers have done just about everything they could have hoped for this offseason. I think they'll still try to add one more bullpen piece, but I don't think they're quite done yet. But this is certainly the last big piece I expect them to add at this point. Let us know in the comment section what you think of the Dodgers, what they've done so far this offseason, and who do you think is the biggest challenger to the Dodgers as far as winning the NLCS, as far as making it to the World Series, winning the World Series? Who do you think is the biggest chance to dethrone the champs in the Los Angeles Dodgers? Welcome in, everybody. Appreciate you guys joining us. Anthony, Holly, Jonathan, Randy, Justin, Rod, appreciate you all joining us today. Surprised you could log in this morning. I thought the internet would be broken. Well, I did try posting this live here just before we came on the air and had a little bit of difficulty. So there was some internet issues. I will say that. We ruined baseball. I don't know about that. Dodgers are the prohibitive favorites, though, and I actually like it for baseball. I'm excited to see what baseball looks like this year. Rod, you're done with the Dodgers and MLB. They're ruining baseball. Good luck, fans, but you're done with baseball? Come on, Rod. Were you done with basketball when the Warriors got KD? Were you done with the Heat or with the NBA when they got LeBron James? Were you done with the Yankees when they did everything they did that they added in the 90s? No. Sure, you have super teams that come together every now and again, but the numbers show that when you have a super team like this, the numbers for the sport go through the roof, and that's what I'm expecting now with Major League Baseball. Now that they have the Dodgers on that evil empire level, really would like to see them really kind of throw their weight around during the regular season and then see if they can pull it off once we get to October. I would expect numbers across baseball to be much better as far as attendance, as far as viewership as well. But we are in a new climate. TV was very different back in the late 90s when the Yankees were the quote-unquote evil empire. Now teams have gone to streaming. They've kind of changed their regional TV deals. We'll see how this really affects the game going forward. Drew, welcome in. Not even mad, but the Dodgers fans are worse than Eagles fans. I don't know. The Eagles fans are pretty darn bad. I mean, when you're throwing snowballs at Santa and you have a prison or a jail in your own stadium, that's a little rough. I don't think the Dodgers are quite that bad. Let's see here. Randy, Scott getting signing bonus and money is deferred. Shocking, shocking, shocking. Paul, welcome back. AB, appreciate you joining us once again. So I hear MLB is about to okay Dodgers increase the roster to 390. All NL teams will become the Dodgers. That's pretty funny. Dodgers can move Dustin May or Bobby Miller to get to the pen if they wanted to. Yes, they can, but I imagine they'll keep them stretched out in the minors or add them as a long reliever in the back end of that bullpen. Remember, they're not going to have Clayton Kershaw for the first 3 months of the season. They're going to have some injuries in there as well. Ohtani's not expected to start the season as a pitcher on that roster. So Gonsolin is going to be in that starting rotation to start the season. And maybe one of May or Miller gets the other starting spot to begin the year. But I would expect them to utilize a 6-man rotation for the majority of the season. Justin, we ruined baseball. I don't know about that. I mean, the Dodgers are a good team. I will say that. They are a very good team, but you still need health. As Mr. AB says there. Really agree with you there. Fungo, welcome in. Appreciate you joining us. Johnny, appreciate you joining us. Brooklyn, welcome in. Let's see here. Dodgers will trade away a few pitchers for some minor league players. They will have to consolidate that roster a little bit. They'll have a roster crunch as we get towards the end of spring training. We'll have to see which decisions the Dodgers decide to make in that regard. If Tanner Scott has one dominant postseason and gets the last out of the World Series, his contract is worth it. Absolutely. Even if he has a 5 ERA in the last year, I would say even if he has a 7 ERA, getting a World Series victory, getting the last out in a World Series, those are very rare in the game. Josh Sborz did it for the Rangers in 23. Was it Trinan who got the last out this past season? I can't remember who just closed out the World Series for the Dodgers, but that last out is always one of the hardest ones to get, and if you can get that done with Tanner Scott, absolutely worth the deal there. Johnny, to all the fans threatening to stop watching baseball, yeah, I think everybody's a little bit butthurt anyway about the Dodgers continuing to add whatever they want, but you still have to go out there and play the game. They're not going to be 145-17. They're not going to win that many games. They're not going to go 162-0. They're still going to win 110, 120 games on the high end. I would expect them to be over 100 for sure with the talent that they've amassed. But if you have some struggles in that rotation, if you have some injury issues in that rotation as well, Sasaki's coming over, still has never thrown a pitch in Major League Baseball. If Teoscar regresses a little bit after having some success last year, goes back to being the player that he was in Seattle or towards the end in Toronto. If you see Conforto continue to struggle offensively, if they miss having the bat at third base by bringing in Nolan Arenado and deciding not to go after him, maybe they make a decision there at the trade deadline and bring him in at that point. But, there is still options for this thing to go wrong for the Dodgers. Sure, they've spent and spent and spent and spent. They are clearly trying to win a World Series with Shohei Ohtani. That's why he deferred so much of that deal, was so they could do things like this. And, they're doing the right thing by Shohei and by the fans in LA by trying to put everything they can into winning a World Series. Jonathan, can't be mad at Friedman taking advantage of the resource and money he has. Absolutely. I would agree there. Brooklyn... I don't know about that, Brooklyn. I mean, he's not exactly signing the guys for the Dodgers. I mean, as the commissioner, you can only do so much. You can only, one thing I think the commissioner and Major League Baseball should do as a whole is close up some of that deferral loophole. That will be done during the next CBA negotiation. There's nothing they can do about it right now. Randy, Paul Fong, no need for that to happen. Japan's NPB league is the Dodgers JV team. That's pretty funny. Roberts has a lot of pressure on him with all that talent. Yes, he does, but he's proven to be successful at it, winning 2 World Series since he's been there. Rafe, welcome in. Congratulations to the Dodgers for winning 7 of the next 10 World Series. That would be a prolific run. I'm not going to lie, Rafe. I don't think, even with this, a talent that they've amassed, that they're going to do quite that. I would say a successful run with Shohei Ohtani would be winning, say, probably another 2 World Series. I'd say anything more than that would be, pure gravy at this point. But I would say during Shohei Ohtani's tenure there, they should expect to win 2 more World Series. But if they win 7 out of 10, they are definitely one of the greatest dynasties baseball has ever seen. But you got to win first. They have 1 World Series back in 2020, another one now in 24. We'll see if they win in 25. Mike, this reminds me a bit. Let's see here. Reminds me a bit of the 2005 Dodgers bullpen when we had Gagne, Broxton, Brazoban, and Koo. That was a pretty good bullpen. They still need more work, though, to me. I think they need to add 1 more bullpen piece. Not welcome in. Tato, welcome back. John, welcome back. Appreciate you joining us once again. Let's see. Your Dodger fan from LA might be the best pitching staff ever. I wouldn't go quite that far. They definitely have the best rotation in the game right now. There are other staffs that I like a little bit better throughout history, but I would say this has the potential to be the greatest in baseball history. We have to see how it performs on the field. We have no idea how effective Kershaw is going to be once he gets back. We have no idea how Sasaki's going to perform because he's never thrown a pitch in Major League Baseball. We have no idea how Ohtani's going to recover from his injury, if Snell still has it, even though he's had up and down performances in his career, if they have more injury issues from Yamamoto and Glasnow. But on paper, you are correct. This is going to be one dynamic pitching staff and should be one of the best we've ever seen. Going to be funny when they don't win the World Series this year. I don't know about funny, but I would say there'll be some serious questions that need to be answered for why they don't win if they end up losing. Will the Yankees get any more players before pitchers and catchers report? They will. Yankees will still add at least 1 more bullpen arm. Now that Tanner Scott has come off the board, I think they'll quickly pivot to their next choice as far as a lefty reliever. I would look towards Andrew Chafin, players like that for the Yankees. And then as far as a middle infield, a guy who can play a little bit of third base as well, that's who they're going to add before we get to spring training. So before we even get to pitchers and catchers, I think they'll get both of those deals done. Bueller. Okay, Bueller closed it out. Okay. Thank you. Literally have the best rotation and bullpen. I would say best rotation, yes. Bullpen, I still have my questions about that bullpen. Dodgers can't keep getting away with it. Yes, they can. They haven't done anything wrong right now. And yes, they have a $375 million payroll. They're going to have a significant tax bill as well. And they're going to continue to have one for the foreseeable future. It's going to be crazy to see the numbers that really go with, as far as tax anyway, with the Los Angeles Dodgers. We keep seeing that top tax bracket referred to as a Steve Cohen tax. Well, now we need to start thinking about it as a Los Angeles Dodgers tax because Cohen ain't in the top 2. It's the Dodgers' #1 spending this year. Then you get the Yankees, and then you get the Mets, Phillies, and that next group there. But look, boy, oh boy, the Dodgers certainly have a significant payroll going forward. Nerd Police, welcome in. Appreciate you joining us. Closer to $500 million with the tax, yes. What is Kershaw even thinking now? They have quite a few starters now. He went in this offseason, had a couple of surgeries to try to recover and get back to being the pitcher that he was. He would not have done those surgeries, he said, if he did not want to come back. So it's just a matter of him coming back and getting healthy. They basically have an understanding between the Dodgers and the Kershaw camp that once the spring training rosters open up and you can put players on the 60-day IL, that's when they will try to get that contract done. And then they can immediately put him on the 60-day IL without having to designate anybody for assignment when they add him to the roster. So that's the wait anyway for Clayton Kershaw. Dodgers going to break the single-season win record in the next 5 years. They have a good chance of it. That's the one thing I'm kind of wondering during the regular season here, during the 162. Yes, they're not going to win 162 games. Yes, they're not going to win 145 games, but they might push 125. They might push 128. They have that kind of talent, and for me, to kind of get to that record, they're going to have some good health in that rotation. They're going to have to add probably one more good arm back there, not just a fill-in arm in that bullpen, but they have a legitimate chance to break that wins record at some point in the next few years. Not welcome back. Perhaps they could get Bichette from Toronto for excess pitching, possibly, but I don't think they necessarily need to go that route, and I don't think Toronto's looking to move Bichette at this point. Now, if they can't get a deal done with him before spring training and they're out of contention by the All-Star break, by the trade deadline, maybe they can do a trade for Bo Bichette, but they have so much middle infield depth right now, they have no need to go after a Bo Bichette at the moment. I'm still wearing my new Sasaki jersey to Petco Park. Well, I mean, Sasaki's going to be a good one, I hope, but he still hasn't thrown a pitch in Major League Baseball. Let's see here. Tommy John needs to come say hello to that clubhouse. Ouch. I don't wish any injury on anybody, but like I said, I cheer for my Rangers. I like to see great baseball being played. And, I don't wish injury on anybody. Now, do I wish, the Dodgers all the best? Absolutely. But when my Rangers face them, of course I'm going to be cheering for my Rangers. Just like, if you're, a Padres fan, you should be cheering for, greatness in the game. But you might want to say, hey, my Padres, when we face each other, I want my Padres to win. Things like that. Now, let's not be too toxic with the Dodgers here. Not to those who are not old enough to, the Dodgers started touring Japan in the 1960s. Okay. Paul, going to pass on the MLB package this year unless it's free. I don't know why. There's still going to be some good baseball being played. Atlanta, they're going to have Acuna coming back. Yankees should be a good team. Orioles, if they add a number one, should be good. Tigers are going to be very competitive, if not division champs there. Royals are going to be a better offensive club. Rangers have better health going into the start of the season with that rotation. They should be better. Astros, they've kind of retooled their team. I don't think they're a World Series favorite anymore. I still think they're a good team, but we'll see how they perform during the regular season and how they perform once they get to October. Giants should be improved after the additions of Verlander and Adames. Are they playoff bound, World Series bound? Probably not. But they've certainly improved. I'd say baseball on the whole has gotten better with the exception of just a couple of teams. Pirates with Paul Skeens in his second season, they're looking for a little bit more offense. They've added some this offseason, but I think they still need just a little bit more. They were talking about outfielders like Alex Verdugo, Randall Grichuk, players like that to help make their team better. And yes, the Dodgers on paper are the favorite, but there's still so many other teams that are going to have a chance to get to the postseason and beat the Dodgers once they get to October. Say we get to October and the Dodgers have won 120 games, 130 games, whatever. Say they break the regular season record. You get to October, you get it in a short series with them, a 5-7 game series, whatever the case may be, and Freeman goes 0 for 12. Ohtani goes 1 for 12. Betts goes 2 for 12. That's possible. And then on the pitching side, all you need is just a couple of runs to scratch across that scoreboard there, and there you go. You win the series. Now, is it better, or is it easier said than done? Absolutely. You still have to go out there and play the games, but it is still possible. If you get to October, all it takes is a couple of bad starts in a postseason by a usually dominant starting pitcher. Say Blake Snell has a sub-3 ERA during the regular season. Absolutely dominant. Then you get to October, and the first game he throws, he gives up a 7-burger. Absolutely you can win that game. Is it out of the realm of possibility? No. These are the things that happens once you get to October. Short series, those kinds of things, anything can happen. And yes, while they've amassed all this talent, they're still susceptible to having a bad series and getting bounced from the postseason. That's why it's very important that they perform their best once they get to October, and we'll see how they perform. But yes, the Dodgers are the favorite, at least on paper, right now. Alrighty, in 2035, the Dodgers will be paying $100 million to players that won't even be on the team. No surprise there with all the deferrals. That's why I think it will be addressed in the next collective bargaining agreement. Roki still needs work. Let's not forget. Yes, he's still going to be adjusting to the major leagues. Rafe, do you see DeGrom saying? Did I see that DeGrom saying that he wants to make 30 starts this season and said said that is what he came here to do, but injuries prevented him from doing that? Well, yes, injuries, of course, have prevented him from doing that. As a starting pitcher, you want to go out there and take the ball every fifth day. With the Rangers, I think they're going to be going with a 6-man rotation at times. They're going to be capping his innings, or especially early on in the season, I would imagine, kind of piggybacking him like they did with Dane Dunning when they first brought him in. I would see something like that happening. But, they want DeGrom, Eovaldi, and the rest of the company there to be very, very healthy once they get to October, because that's when that's what they're on the roster to do. They want to win. They're not just there to win during the regular season. They want to get to the postseason and push for another World Series. Yes, they just got their first one in franchise history, but they want to be greedy. That's why they went out there and bring in all these other talented players. Jock Peterson, they bring back Nathan Eovaldi, and they're still looking to add some bullpen help as well. One other point with Tanner Scott here. Now with Tanner Scott off the board, 4 for 72. A.J. Minter, 2 for 22. Jose Leclerc, 1 for 10 to the A's. Relief numbers are off the charts right now. I wonder if teams that are kind of crunched as far as payroll decide to go to the trade market to add some bullpen help or just go with the young route. For instance, the Texas Rangers have a couple of guys in-house that are already on payroll that are going to be, pre-arbitration players that they could put in to that closer role. But I think they want to get at least one proven option back there. At the outside of the offseason, we thought maybe Kirby Yates get a 1-year, $14 million deal. With the money that we've seen thrown around to relievers over the past couple of days, I would say he's very comfortably going to get a 2 for 22, maybe 2 for $30 million deal, somewhere in that range. Kirby Yates is now the best reliever left on the market, and we'll see where he goes. No shortage of teams interested in his services. Rangers, Diamondbacks, Cubs, Tigers, and a few others as well have kicked the tires on his services, so we'll see where he goes. Let us know in the comments section what you guys think is the number one competition to the Los Angeles Dodgers. Tell us where you guys think Kirby Yates is going to go now that he is the top free agent reliever left on the board. For folks that are upset about this, be mad at your team's front offices, I'd just say just get over it. I wouldn't necessarily be upset with my own team's front office. I would just realize that the Dodgers are in a very special place right now. They got lucky, with having the financial windfall that they did with Shohei Ohtani, and they're taking full advantage of it. Other teams have different ways of growing their own teams, growing from within, trying to go through free agency, and you can only do what you can do as a team. And yes, you still have to play the games. Every team still has a chance to go out there and beat the Los Angeles Dodgers. For instance, the Miami Marlins are not going to be a great team this year. But still, in a 3-game series in the middle of June, absolutely they can win 2 of 3 against the Los Angeles Dodgers. Say they get the 4, 5, 6 starters in that Dodgers rotation. All it takes is a couple of poor starts from those starters, and boom, you get a win in the series. They're not going to win 162 games this year, guys. Let's not overblow or kind of blow out of proportion just how good the Dodgers are. They are a prolific team, but they still have to go out there and win. Once they get to October, we'll see how the chips fall. But they are, on paper, the best team right now in Major League Baseball. The whole Dodgers rotation bullpen will represent the West on the AL All-Star team. I don't think so. I think the Dodgers probably get 2 starters out of that group, maybe. I think Freddie Freeman has a chance. Mookie Betts has a chance. But outside of that, I don't think they get any more starters off of that team. They might get a bullpen guy. But I would say that the rest of the starters in the National League, you might get a Corbin Burns that gets in the All-Star game. You might get a Zach Gallen. You might get a, who's a couple of other pitchers? You might get a Dylan Cease from the Padres. As far as other players, Spencer Strider from the Atlanta Braves. You might get Edwin Diaz from the Mets. There's still other good players in the game. Let's see here. Trying to catch up on a few of these comments. Where is MLB investigated Soroki and the Dodgers prior to posting and found no wrongdoing? True, we discussed that last night. I don't like how you can just defer all the money. That makes no sense to me regardless of who does it. But hey, congratulations to the Dodgers for having that owner management group. Absolutely, Rafe. There you go. To me, they're taking advantage of the situation that exists right now in baseball. And hats off to them for doing so. They spend the money. They have the deferrals work however they can make them work. And they're going to have to pay the piper eventually. But the present day dollar, of course, is a lot less impactful than with the way they're doing it, getting the deferred money there. Now, that loophole will be closed eventually. I have no doubt about that. I think that at some point they're going to institute some type of a cap on the number of deferred dollars that you can have. You can still spend as much money as you want, but it's going to be taxed. But as far as deferrals, I think they will put a hard cap on deferred money there. Imagine how big the Dodgers will be in Asia, and the amount of money they'll make there is high, where baseball is bigger in the U.S. Absolutely. I think you're going to see the Dodgers just roll in all that money, and we'll see how much money they really rake in here. Remember, on deferred player has to agree and can't a player defer money because they want their team to win? Absolutely. That's why we see players in other sports take less money. For instance, the most loyal player I've ever seen, my hero right now, I have his picture up on the wall. My dad's my number one hero, but my second one, I only have 2, is Dirk Nowitzki. He took less. He took the least, or he took as, he sacrificed as much salary as anybody ever has in any professional sport ever to help make his team better. And he ultimately got a NBA championship out of it. Didn't get a second one, unfortunately. Tim Duncan's on that list as far as players who took less to be able to go back to their teams, to allow their teams to build out their roster a little bit. Of course, you can try to maximize your value. That's what Kobe Bryant did with the Los Angeles Lakers. We saw how that worked out towards the end. It was basically the Kobe Bryant show. Nothing wrong about trying to get your paper, but and trying to do the best for yourself. Kobe, of course, had tons of interest off the court. He still did very well. But what I'm saying is you can still try to build out the best roster you can. And yes, the player still has to agree to that deferred money, taking less, whatever the case may be. Make it to where no more than 50% of the contract can be deferred. That's one possibility. Don't overlook the D-backs. I'm not. I like that rotation. They're right there in that division. But to me, even with the additions that they have in that rotation, I'd say Jordan Montgomery will be traded here in the next week or so. I'm very confident in that one. I'm saying the Texas Rangers, Chicago Cubs, teams that are still looking for some starting pitching, Toronto Blue Jays, Cincinnati Reds, could all be a player here. Maybe the New York Yankees to a lesser extent for Jordan Montgomery. But nobody's overlooking the D-backs. I like them. D-backs are doing nothing. I don't know about that, Rafe. They're still going to have a chance to win the wild card. I doubt they'll have a chance to win to win the division. But if they catch lightning in a bottle, they could beat anybody in a postseason series. Say you get to that wild card round. It's a 3-game series. You throw out there Burns and Gallen, game 1 and 2. They pitch shutouts. Boom, you win. You move on to the next round. Say you face the Dodgers in the next round. You throw out there with Merrill Kelly, Corbin Burns, and Zach Gallen. Those 3 there, say you win 2 out of those 3, you have a 2-1 lead going into Game 4, and then who knows who wins at that point. For me, I'd still say the Dodgers have the best chance to win that series, but anything can happen once you start playing the games. Brooklyn, who are you going to have your money on? Honestly, 2 different teams. I obviously will have a little bit on the Rangers. I love the Rangers. That's my favorite team. But the Dodgers on paper are the best team in baseball. They would be the chalk right now. But you're not going to make much. If you're trying to make money gambling, you try to take advantage of a team, an underdog, make a little bit more money for bang for your buck. But you also want a legitimate chance at it. You don't just want to pick the Marlins and say, well, they have the worst odds. Let me see if they can win. Absolutely not. I would try to find a team like the Mets, a team like the Yankees, Orioles, Rangers, Phillies, a team like that has a legitimate chance in October that might not be viewed as the favorite, but if things go their way, like say Trey Turner starts to hit for the Phillies, say Nick Castellanos takes a little bit of time off with Kepler being in that mix, and his numbers go up a little bit because he's not playing a full 162, say the Padres get a little bit more production out of Xander Bogaerts like they're expecting, all these teams have some room to grow just internally without making additional investments in free agency. So again, we have to see how the games ultimately play out. Welcome in, D-Rod. Welcome back. Appreciate you joining us. Baseball has more variability. Clearly, the Dodgers are the best on paper. Absolutely, no guarantees. Seattle had the single-season record with 1 year and lost to the Yankees in 5. Yes, they did. I remember that season very well. Rafe, honestly, cap DeGrom at 5 innings during the season so he can be available for the playoffs. I would be more trying to cap DeGrom at pitches and effort. So, for instance, say he's gone through 5 innings and only thrown 60 pitches. I would probably still allow him to go out there for a 6th. Now, say you get to the 4th inning and he's at 60 pitches through 3 innings. That's a little bit more cumbersome. Maybe through 5 innings, that would be the cap after that. But I think DeGrom will be worked with quite diligently on that pitch count and seeing how stressful his innings are as they try to manage his health. All right, Michael called it Tanner Scott to the Dodgers. I did. Actually, the contract that we were discussing last night for him and a few days ago was Tanner Scott for around 4 for 70. And what did the numbers come in at? 4 for 72. So not too bad, especially with the numbers we saw for Minter and for Leclerc. We knew the numbers for Scott were not going to be 4 for 60, which is what our prediction was to begin the offseason. We bumped those up over the last week, and those turned out to be pretty much accurate. 4 for 72, right in that window there. Tato, want your opinion. What do you think the Rangers do with the last bullpen piece? You're sounding too expensive for Rangers now. I hate how it seems every year we don't have a legit closer. You look at the Rangers' history. Sam Dyson was the closer to start the season. Jose Leclerc, Sean Tollison. Players like this have been the closers in years past. Neftali Feliz going back years and years. The Rangers have gone about it a little bit cheaper. They never really brought in the elite closer. The last one they really did that with, for me, was Joe Nathan. I absolutely loved seeing Joe Nathan in a Rangers uniform. He was great. one of the great Rangers relievers we've seen in recent memory. I would like to see them do something like that. Now, Kirby Yates is a little bit older, not necessarily a Joe Nathan type in my mind, but I could see them adding, Kirby Yates still on a 2 for 25 deal. They still have the room to be able to bring him in. I think they might be outbid based on how prices are really going for relievers right now. If Leclerc is getting 1 for 10, that's just insane money for a guy who's made, 15 and a half over the last 5 years. We're talking about AJ Minter, who this offseason we were talking around $4 or $5 million with incentives to make it worth it for him. Ultimately gets 2 for 22 guaranteed and could be more. Just really crazy numbers we're seeing for relievers right now. But for the Rangers, I think that they'll try for Yates and see if they can get that one done. But if it's too expensive, I think they go to the trade route, bring in a guy like Helsley, 1 year, $8 million. But if they want to go a little bit cheaper, if they want to get a little bit more length out of the contract for whoever they bring in as a closer, then I think they go to the Minnesota Twins and see if they can pry away Duran as their closer. He's got 3 years left on his deal. I think he'd be a great fit in that Rangers bullpen. You'd still have Mark Church and so forth that you could try to develop into that closer role, but having that proven closer there is invaluable when you're trying to win a World Series. Having that proven guy at the back end of that bullpen is exactly what the Rangers still need. That one hole left on that roster, so we'll see if they get that done. There is some rumblings about the Rangers looking for some starting pitching as well. Let's go ahead and head over to X and see if anything is happening this morning besides the Tanner Scott news. See if there's any additional fallout. More talk about Roki Sasaki. More talk about how the Dodgers are the prolific team. Hall of Fame is coming up, the announcement, so hopefully we'll have some new names there. Bullpen is still somewhat of a priority, but they're going to try to go through internal options if they can't find someone externally, according to Chris Young. Kittredge also got $10 million. That was some crazy numbers we're seeing for bullpen arms right now. All right, KLA, welcome in. Let's see here. The only team that can beat the Dodgers is the Phillies. They have the rotation. I'd say the Diamondbacks have a chance. There's still several teams that have a chance to win against the Dodgers. Dodgers, though, on paper, are the best. Let's see here. Trying to catch up on a few of these comments. I apologize if I miss yours. Sox fan, welcome in. Skull, welcome in. Mets and Bauer are talking. Really? I have not seen that one. Scully, I would really appreciate if you could send us the link on that one. If they're talking to Trevor Bauer, I would love to hear that one because he has not pitched in the majors in, 4 years? I mean, I get that they're still looking for any way to upgrade, but I have not heard any team in connection with Trevor Bauer. If you could send me that link, I would greatly appreciate that because I have not heard Trevor Bauer. Ohtani is an all-star at DH. Yes, he will be. Going to the Dodgers, what a waste. I don't know about that. I think the Ohtani going to the Dodgers was the best for him and the future of the Dodgers. And obviously worked in year one when he wasn't even pitching. He won a World Series out of it. Does Glasnow share all of his hair tips and regimen with all the new players? I'm sure they talk about all kinds of crazy things when they're in the dugout. It's a 162-game season. Not every conversation is going to be about the situation in front of them. Dodgers are the best-run organization in baseball. I would say they're certainly up there. For me, they certainly have the international scouting down. The NPB market, they've got that one down. I'd say free agency, they've got that one down. The one area I think they could use a little bit more help in is just getting more consistent efforts out of that bullpen. They've had some good homegrown talent out of that bullpen, but they haven't really quite developed enough in that area. If I was to nitpick the Dodgers, that would be one area I would have tried to address. And then that starting rotation. How many guys are left in that rotation that are homegrown guys? Not Glasnow, not Yamamoto. Of course, I guess you could count him as homegrown, even though you signed him as an international free agent, but they didn't develop him through the minors, etc. Same thing with Sasaki. Kershaw is their homegrown guy, of course. Gonsolin May, I guess you could say to a lesser extent, but where's the ace in that staff right now? They really had to go out there and address that in free agency, and that's what they've done, bringing in Blake Snell, the trade for Glasnow, among others. They've done just a really great job addressing any foreseen deficiencies in that rotation and in that lineup. And Dirk is in the Hall of Fame too. Yes, he is. Let's see here. D-Rod, why did it take 50 years of free agency for the Dodgers to finally arrive at the Yankees level? Ownership primarily. They were dealing with less than well-funded ownership groups for years. Guggenheim Group comes in, and now they have the money to go out there and do whatever they really want to do and act like the Los Angeles Dodgers. That's the biggest reason there. Mets had the same problem when they were in New York as well. They had some ownership that had financial difficulties. Now they have an owner that can spend and spend and spend, and now we're in a completely different age in baseball. You don't have the Yankees as that quote-unquote evil empire team that outspends everybody. Now they have competition for the top level of free agents. Yankees, Mets, Dodgers, all in that upper tier as far as teams that can acquire top end talent year in and year out because of their payroll availability. And Dodgers are now in that class. Mike, welcome in. Scott to the Dodgers. What's the point? Because they needed bullpen help. They still haven't done enough in that bullpen. I still think they need one more arm back there. But Scott certainly does improve that bullpen quite a bit. But I still think they could use another 7th, 8th inning option as well. How cheap do you think Kenley Jansen would be now? I would say probably 2 for 20. Before this recent stretch of signings, I would have said probably 2 for 16. But I think Kenley Jansen's going to break that $20 million number now, especially with the numbers that we're seeing for Leclerc and A.J. Minter. With the proven track record of a Kenley Jansen, even though he's no longer the Jansen of old, I would say he still gets 2 for 20. HW, welcome in. Appreciate you joining us. If you guys are new here, make sure you guys hit that like on the video and subscribe. We'll be live every single night bringing you the latest from MLB's Hot Stove and throughout the regular season as well. It's going to take longer years for the other 28 teams to reach the Yankees level. I don't think anybody's ever going to reach, all teams are going to have the same financial footing at any given time. You're going to have small market teams. You're going to have big market teams. That's part of the reason why a lot of fans argue for a salary cap. I don't necessarily like that idea. I think there's all kinds of different ways to build a baseball team out there. You don't need to spend at the top of the market. You don't need to go bare bones on the back end of the market. You can try to maximize the international bonus pool. You can go through revenue sharing. There's all kinds of different ways to do it. Now, to kind of even the playing field, I guess that would make some sense for me as far as, giving each team the same availability. But that doesn't mean the team's going to be viable at the market size that they're in. Plus, it's going to handicap some of the numbers that some of those players can ultimately make. And yes, those players should be able to make whatever they're able to in their contracts. I get it. They're not doing, surgery as a doctor. They're not doing police work. They're not serving in the military, jobs that are far more important. But they still have an important job to do as far as, on the baseball field. They still have commitments off the field as well in their communities things in their contract they'll have to do as well. And yes, they do provide a service, just like your Netflix, just like any other service that you enjoy. You pay to enjoy that service, and they deserve to make whatever dollars that they can get from it. It's just when high tide raises all boats. The more somebody else makes, the more eventually you make down the road. It's just how things work out. Let's see here, Fungo. You bet. Let's see here. Let's see. You bet the run totals on the Dodgers, not the game. Possibly, but for me, that Dodgers rotation could keep those run totals down. I lost like $500 on bets on months ago about the Super Bowl matchups because the Lions and Texans lost. Ouch. Ryans and Helsley looks better by the day, especially with him and the Cards not having extension talks. Yes, it does. Phillies are the third best team in their division. Third best in their division? I don't know about that. For me, the Braves are the third best team until they add another starter to that rotation. But I'd say the Phillies are right there, with the other two teams in that division. Let's see here. Welcome in, James. Welcome back, St. Vintage. Appreciate you joining us. Brady, appreciate you joining us as well. Step it up, Yankees. Yankees still need to add an impact bat. I think they will add one at the deadline. They don't really have much money left if they're trying to stay beneath that tax threshold. The Dodgers have just blown past it, though, so we'll see, how good the Dodgers are this year. I know you're a Rangers fan. Who do you feel is the most underrated offensive player during the time that A-Rod was on the Rangers that nobody was talking about because he was reliable and consistent? During the A-Rod tenure, there's a few guys, players that I like Frank Catalanato, thinking players like Marlon Byrd, Kevin Mench, Lance Nix for a year. Who else was on that team? Michael Young was just starting out. That's a good question. Probably go with one of that outfield group there. Alrighty. Breggy, Yankees at least get a third base or second baseman. They will add one. McCourt was terrible. Yes, he was. I'm going to make some crazy prediction that I think the Dodgers get a Japanese pitcher next year. That's a crazy one. Mike, what's the point? Got the rest of the league is what I meant. Okay. Rafe, how do you feel about the Rangers' new TV deal with, was it Victory? Yes, it was Victory. I actually like the TV deal, and they're going to have two more options as far as viewing the Rangers games as well. In case you guys are not up to date on the TV rights deals for the Rangers, Rangers are now going direct to a streaming service. They have agreed to a deal with Victory Plus. That's where you can watch the Stars, Rangers, even the Anaheim Ducks. There's going to be some type of geographic location thing on it as well that restricts as far as the viewership out of it. So, for instance, if you're in, South Dakota, you'd probably still have to get the MLB.TV to be able to watch them there. But Victory Plus, if you spend $100, you get all the games that are on Victory Plus. There'll be some outcrop of games that will be on over-the-air service, like a Game of the Week type of thing that they used to have on KXTA, the cable channel anyway. And then they'll also have a straight-to-consumer product as well, or through a cable provider or satellite provider like DirecTV. I think that's probably where they'll go again. Mike, do you think the Mets and Blue Jays ultimately make a trade involving Vlad Guerrero Jr.? If they don't get an extension done, maybe at the deadline, but not right now. I think that there are significant rumors about the Blue Jays and Pete Alonso. I would not be surprised if Guerrero plays a lot of third base this year if they bring in Pete Alonso. They were looking to upgrade this offense quite a bit over the last couple of years, and they might have an opportunity to do it now with Pete Alonso. Is he their first choice, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth choice? Probably not. Is he the choice that they're left with to try to improve that offense? I think it is, and I would not be surprised if he ends up going to the Toronto Blue Jays. International draft picks makes more sense. Deferred money rules and bigger floor. Some owners are cheap. Yes, some owners are. But I like the international draft as far as an idea. I'd like to see how the rules really work for it, because having this Sasaki thing done the way it was done, we kind of all knew he was going to go to the Los Angeles Dodgers. Michael Young was good. Yes, he was. Scully, what do you think about David Robertson reunion with the Mets? I think that'd be a great eighth inning option for them. But they already brought in A.J. Minter. I'm not sure if they're going to bring another arm like that one. But Scully, I saw your comment earlier about Bauer. I really would like to see, where you're getting that information. If you could send it to us in the chat. It's over. Welcome in. Welcome in. Appreciate you joining us. Got about 75, 80 of you guys with us right now. So make sure you guys hit that like and subscribe if you haven't already. I really appreciate all the interest we have this morning. Frank McCourt was ex-Dodgers owner who was cheap on spending until Dodgers fans put pressure to sell him to the Guggenheim Group. Time for Yankees fans to put pressure on Hal to sell the team. I don't know about that. They're still the second highest spending team in the game. Just because they're not number one anymore, you want him to sell the team because you think he's cheap now? I mean, sure, they're not the number one spending team in the league. Yes, George Steinbrenner outspent everybody, but that was a different day and age. You didn't have ownership on the Dodgers or the Mets or any of these other teams that could even compete payroll-wise with the New York Yankees and that Yes Network. Now you have some teams that can at least compete in that ballpark there. Sure, maybe they could go with another ownership group there and get a bunch of billionaires together and just spend and spend and spend and spend and spend and spend. But at a certain point, you still have to play the game. There's still 30 teams in the game. You're still gonna have to there's still gonna be expansion coming as well. There's going to be teams that have great years coming out of nowhere like the Diamondbacks did when they got to the World Series in 23. But the favorite on paper right now is the Dodgers, and I get the sentiments out there about, baseball's just decided now. But you still have to go out there and win. You guys all tuned in with the Golden State Warriors when they brought in KD, teamed him up with Steph. You guys tuned in with when it was LeBron James, D. Wade, Chris Bosh, and the Heatles in Miami. And you tuned in again in the 90s when the Yankees were the quote-unquote evil empire. You're going to do so again now that the Dodgers have done so much this offseason. Why are Stars games free, but the Rangers games are $100? Make no mistake, Rafe, anyway, the Stars games will be for a charge this year. Stars just wanted to make sure that their fans had a chance to view their games after the terrible experience that fans had with how Bally was working out for them. And they just wanted to make sure they put their product in front of as many fans as they possibly could. They still were able to make a decent amount of money from that deal that they made with Victory, with the ads and so forth. But there will be a charge going into next year. I guarantee you there will be one. Will it be $100? Probably not. I would guess the Stars games will probably be in that $75 range for the year, but the Rangers games will be $100. I've looked everywhere, but I've seen nothing on Bauer the Mets talks. So that's kind of what I'm wondering. If you guys see that stuff out there, I'd love to hear it. Graham, well, thank you for saying George lived and operated in a completely different era. Hal isn't cheap in any way. Again, I would argue that this is a completely different era of baseball. Hal Steinbrenner is still the second highest spending owner in baseball right now, even more than Steve Cohen. And everybody keeps talking about the deep pocketbooks of Steve Cohen, but who's still spending more? That's right, the New York Yankees are. So I get all the negativity out there, Yankees fans, about how the Dodgers now have the biggest payroll. They seem to get everybody that they want. How you're just continuing to hear Hal talk about how they're restricted on payroll. They've still spent quite a bit. So let's not get it twisted here. The Yankees are still operating with a significant payroll. Scully, on Fox Sports, they said Bauer expressed interest in pitching for the Mets, but I don't know, probably nothing will come of it. Bauer's expressed interest in pitching for literally everybody. I have yet to see a team contact Trevor Bauer's camp with interest in him to even take hey, let's see how, we'll scout you for, just a exhibition or something like that. We haven't even seen those rumors. And again, Trevor Bauer has not pitched in Major League Baseball in 4 years. Mets and Alonso still engaged in talks. I'm sure they're at least talking, but I seriously doubt they're going to come to any type of a deal here. The team has pretty much moved on after the deal with Jesse Winker, the deal with A.J. Minter. If they do anything else, maybe they add another bench bat or another bullpen piece there. Bauer would pitch for any team who would take him. Sucks that he's gone, and for some bullshit too. I would agree there. That was some crazy stuff that was going on around Bauer at the time. That's why the team and the league pretty much excommunicated him. And I don't think there's any way for him to get back in. Not because that he isn't or wasn't a good pitcher or because of the off-the-field stuff. It's just he simply hasn't thrown to Major League hitters in 4 years. I mean, he's thrown to guys like Hank Conger and Nomar Mazara in the Mexican League. Players who no longer are in baseball. And while he still looks good, I just don't think he has the ability to really compete at the highest level anymore. Maybe he has a little bit in there, but a team isn't going to take the PR backlash for a guy who might be an okay number 4 or 5 starter if things are good. If things are great, obviously you'd love to have him, but you have no guarantee of that, and you're not going to take the headline hit just to even work him out as well. Mike, Bregman goes where? The 3 teams still in on his market. We'll go ahead and name 4 anyway. The Tigers, the Red Sox, the Blue Jays, and the quote-unquote dark horse, the Chicago Cubs. Those are the 4 teams in there. Tigers seem to be a little bit more restrictive as far as the funds. They don't want another bad deal like Zimmerman or Javi Baez. That's why they're a little bit hesitant on Bregman. Looks like the Red Sox, I would consider the slight favorite there. Blue Jays, if they get a deal done with Vlad Guerrero, could easily turn to Alex Bregman and say, hey, now that we've got a little bit more stability, are you interested in signing with us now? I think that would be one of the more convincing arguments that the Blue Jays could make if they get that extension done before spring training and Bregman is still available. Maybe they have a better chance to sign him once they get Guerrero under contract long term. And then, of course, the Chicago Cubs. They brought in Kyle Tucker. Why not bring in his teammate Alex Bregman? If you're truly all in on 2025, they still need more work, or they still have more work to do in that bullpen and in that lineup. Mike, you think Pete signed somewhere else and Toronto signed Santander? I think Toronto does get one of those guys. I think the Angels sadly make the quote-unquote big splash and get one or the other. Robert, regardless of how anyone feels, excellent recent moves will impact the next CBA. How so? We'll see. Absolutely they will. The deferral certainly will be something that is addressed. There's like 12 big ticket items that now need to be addressed in that CBA. We might be headed for a work stoppage sooner rather than later when that CBA comes due. Wish the Mets signed Iglesias back. He owes a vibe. They still, or as far as Iglesias, Jose Iglesias, I think he'd be a good get for somebody out there as far as a right-handed bench bat, maybe utility player all over the diamond. Bregman, the market won't set until he inks a contract, and I don't think personally he's going to get what he wants. I think he's going to get it. I think he's going to beat the Adames deal 7 for 182. I think there's so many teams that are interested in him still that the numbers are going to be there. Now, is it going to be, what he was originally hoping for, 8 for 240, 9 for 270, something like that? No. I think he's going to be looking very close to that $200 million range, especially if relievers are getting this kind of crazy money. There's still money out there for Bregman as well. Rafe, Blue Jays are imploding, but I see as a payback for the whole Bautista and Odor situation, possibly. If you're a Ranger fan, you enjoy that one. Fungo, MLB didn't like him even before the free Bauer. I mean, I'm not going to get into the semantics about that part of it, though. I think Bauer, just because he hasn't pitched in the majors in 4 years, is why teams won't reach out to him. Even if he was a model citizen and didn't have any headlines around him, I still don't think teams would reach out to him because he hasn't pitched in the majors in 4 years. Dodgers amazing. Give it to me. Master bullpen, master starting rotation with Sasaki. I mean, they do have a great rotation if healthy and if the pieces work out. Bullpen, to me, I think is a lot better with the acquisition of Tanner Scott, but they still could use one more piece back there. Scully, I still think the Mets can compete with the Dodgers. Just look at the last year when they pushed them to Game 7 with a rebuild team. Absolutely, and now they add in Juan Soto, A.J. Minter, and the rest of the group there. I think the Mets are a good team. I just think they need a little bit more help in that rotation around the trade deadline. Another number one to kind of compete with the rest of the rotations that they're going to have to compete with in October. Welcome in, Lucas. Haven't popped in for a bit. Thank you. Appreciate all you guys joining us. If you guys want to hit that like and subscribe, would greatly appreciate it. In case you guys are just joining us, big headline of the morning. Once again, the Los Angeles Dodgers have added another big piece. Tanner Scott, 4 years, $72 million. Of course, deferrals in that contract as well. But now they have a very good bullpen in addition to probably the greatest rotation in all of baseball if everybody is healthy. A lot of ifs, but they got on paper right now, they are the eminent favorite to win the World Series. Let's see here. Graham Bauer, if he returned now, would not be the same. He got shelled in your honest opinion. Yes, Bauer just isn't available as far as an option for teams. Say if this was 2 years ago, I think if he had none of the headlines around him, he might have gotten a workout deal with the team and might have signed. But of course, at the time, he was still dealing with that stuff, and there was no way he was going to agree to a deal at that time or get a deal offered to him at that time. Rafe, Dodgers can enjoy their upcoming rings as long as the Astros don't get them. I mean, I get the anti-Astro sentiment there from a Ranger fan. All right, Robert, Sandy Alcantara would be a hot name if he bounces back for a trade. Absolutely. I think as far as the trade deadline goes, we're looking at Sandy Alcantara, Pablo Lopez, probably some of the top arms that we're going to see mentioned at the trade deadline. And I know the Marlins are going to be looking to trade Sandy Alcantara at that time. They were looking to do so last year at the deadline with a bunch of their arms, but so many of those guys got injured, Tommy Johns, etc., poor performance, and ultimately they were not able to capitalize with their starting pitching that they had. Now they're going to try to do the same thing, run it back, and do it all over again this year. Hopefully they have better luck on their injury front, and Sandy Alcantara should still draw a hefty return for the Marlins. But we'll see where he goes. A team like the Orioles absolutely needs a number one. Maybe a team wants to jump out there and add another number one just to kind of solidify their rotation like the Mets. Maybe the Yankees goes in on him, but I'd say the Orioles right now would be the favorites if I was picking a team that needed a number one, and then the Mets, as far as a team that has a legitimate chance to win a World Series, that would be the teams I would be looking at for a Sandy Alcantara trade. So if the Mets don't sign Alonso, you think they're not adding a legit bat to hit behind Soto to start the season? That's not at all in my mind. I think that's kind of the issue right now. The money is just so high in free agency. I think that they kind of made their decision bringing in Jesse Winker as kind of a bench bat, a DH type of option. They're going to move Vientos over to first base. They have so many good middle infield, corner infield prospects that I think they're going to try to make it work with those guys. Now, that doesn't mean they're going to not try to add a bat at the deadline, but I think they've moved on from the idea of bringing back Pete Alonso because they don't necessarily like the idea of having him on the books long term. And yes, they offered him a 3-year deal, opt-outs after the first and second year, around $20 million. That, of course, was a non-starter for Pete Alonso. He wanted more money, around the $30 million range, and he wanted that. I don't think the Mets are going to up their offer that much to get him in that range. I don't even think they're going to offer him a 1-year deal at, say, $30 million. I think that would be the only type of deal that might interest them is, not an opt-out deal where he might still opt into years 2 and 3 of that contract, but a strict 1-year deal might have some interest there. But I think the Mets have ultimately decided to move on from Pete Alonso. Do I think it's the right move? Probably not. I mean, you're Steve Cohen. You're supposed to be the guy that's supposed to spend in this situation, and it seems like they're trying to save a little bit of money here, or at least go in a different direction long-term at first base. Don't really fault them for that decision, because if I was on any other team in any other front office, I would make that decision as well, because to me, Pete Alonso's a one-trick pony, a power bat, grounds into double plays, doesn't hit for contact rate. It's going to have to be moved off of first base defensively to a DH in a couple of years anyway, so you're not going to sign him to a 5-year deal. I get the negatives for Pete Alonso, but he still is an impact bat behind a Juan Soto that would allow Juan Soto to get more pitches to hit. So, at a certain point, they see the writing on the wall as well. They're not just going to say, hey, we're the Mets, we're the team that can afford to do it, so we're going to go ahead and do it anyway. They're going to still try to operate as a smart baseball team, and I think they're going to try to bring in a guy like Vlad Guerrero in free agency or at the deadline this summer. Is Chris Sale still pitching? I haven't paid attention to him in like 5 years. Yes, he's still pitching. He was great last year, by the way. In case you guys didn't catch him, he was the NL Cy Young for the Atlanta Braves. You going to watch football today? Yes, I will watch some of the games today. If I had to pick a Super Bowl winner now, honestly, we're looking at the Chiefs as the inevitable option on the AFC side. I think the Bills-Ravens game is going to be absolutely off the hook. And then as far as the Eagles-Rams game, I'm hoping the Commanders get there, but it's a rookie quarterback. I think one of those two teams, Eagles or Rams, whoever wins, gets to the Super Bowl, and then I think the Chiefs ultimately win again. I'm not saying that's what I want to happen. That's just what I think will happen. But as far as the winners, I'll go ahead and say, that Ravens-Bills matchup is just so juicy. I'm going to say the Ravens find a way to pull it out. I just think the Bills' defense has regressed a little bit to the point where in the battle of the two quarterbacks, the running game of the Ravens might be enough to take them over the top. And then as the NFC side, I'll say the Eagles beat the Rams, but I don't think they're going to sack Jalen Hurts nearly as many times as they did Sam Darnold. All right, let's see here. Graham, the Marlins, I agree on Alcantara. However, if they don't up their payroll, they're going to be in trouble. Do you think they actually care? No, but I think they're going to add some payroll anyway. I think there's plenty of teams that are looking to offload big contracts. They could easily trade them to the Marlins and give them the prospects that they're looking for and allow them to at least stay compliant with the revenue sharing guidelines with 1.5 times the amount of payroll to be able to get the revenue sharing output there to avoid having that grievance filed against them. I think that's the only thing they really care about in adding those prospects there. Ownership is only going to care about that revenue sharing. Lucas, Wyatt Langford walk-off home run on Tanner Scott to sweep the World Series will hit like crack. If that happens, I would love that. But Wyatt Langford, I think, is going to really rise to superstar level status this year. He is probably the biggest riser, I think, in the American League as far as a guy that's a good player this year that rises all the way to superstar status and might even be on par with Corey Seager as far as a player by the end of the season, maybe even supplant him as the number one player on the Rangers roster. Speed, defense, availability, he just has it all. I think he's the total package for the Rangers, and if he continues to ascend and gets into that power that we expect, we're talking about a prolific player that the Rangers will have in their lineup for years to come. Steve Cohen looks like 100% all in for Vladdy. I agree there, because the only reason you don't sign Pete Alonso, I think it's just because Pete Alonso would be a bad baseball decision to sign him long-term, have all that money committed at DH, when you have so many good young options coming through the minors. I think they see the opportunity to move on from Pete Alonso, as tough as it might be, and still have good production coming with the rookies, and having the opportunity to add somebody like Vlad Guerrero in free agency next offseason, or via trade at the deadline. Robert, Mets going to always go after Kyle Tucker in free agency too. They will have an opening out there with Marte being off the roster at the end of the year. Move Nimmo to first or DH. That's a possibility, especially if you're depending on his health. I prefer Vlad, but maybe they sign both. I wouldn't rule that out. I mean, we're talking about teams like the Nationals and Giants also adding significant payroll next year as well. The Dodgers, of course, a threat every single year. Yankees are going to have money. Cubs are going to want to try to re-sign him. Blue Jays are going to try to re-sign him. You're going to have some competition, but the Mets should have the ability to sign him for the contract if they have the wherewithal to go that high dollar-wise. Salvi Perez feels like he's 42, but he's only 34. If that's it, he does feel like he's in his 40s, man. Mike, the Mets need a lot more. They have a lot more to do. They need an ace, middle-of-the-order bat, and a good bullpen arm, at least, if they're going to be competing with L.A. They just brought in A.J. Minter. They don't need another high-end guy, but I think another 7th, 8th inning option would be preferable for them. As far as a middle-of-the-order bat, I think Soto's the improvement there over Pete Alonso in that lineup, but I do agree that they could use one more bat to that lineup. The biggest need, though, for me, is an ace, like you mentioned there, a guy like Framber Valdez. If they can't get an extension done with the Houston Astros, I think he would be a good bet there. Or Dylan Cease from the San Diego Padres would be another great fit as well. Bills or Ravens going to show KC how real men play football? Well, I mean, KC just knows how to win, period. They just figure it out. The young, fresh one, appreciate you joining us. I think this is the first time I've seen you comment in our chat, so thank you for joining us. Hit that like and subscribe if you haven't done so already. Hey, Upside, nice work, great insight. Am I wrong for thinking the Brewers failed to extract great value from their biggest pieces, Corbin Burnes last year and Devin Williams this year? No, actually, I think Devin Williams' trade was actually pretty nice. I think the better option would have been to trade him before he got to this point with 1 year left on his deal. I think the arbitration case with Corbin Burnes really impacted how things worked out with Corbin Burnes more than anything else, so I think they maximized the value there. Could they have done more if they traded those guys, with a couple years left to control rather than just one? Absolutely. That's kind of the argument we made with Shohei Ohtani, how they never traded him with the Los Angeles Angels, and they're paying for it as an organization for their failure to see that he was leaving in free agency. But for the Brewers, I like the trade that they made for Devin Williams. I like Nestor Cortez. I think they'll have a chance to be able to sign him long-term in their rotation if he works out. I like the piece that they got back as well in the minors. But as far as the Devin Williams trade, I would give that one a win-win for both sides. As far as Corbin Burnes, I like the pieces that they got back, but I agree that they could have gotten more if they had traded him earlier. Chad, welcome in. Who do you think the Detroit Tigers are going to get for the bullpen? Kirby Yates is the one I'd say that they have the best chance at in free agency, but I think that there's going to be so much interest in him, I think he's going to go elsewhere for the dollar. And so I think they go the trade route and try to bring in Ryan Presley. Rafe, do you think the Rangers are going to pay Young, Carter, and Langford, or do you think eventually one or two will walk for wanting too much money? Ray has been good about spending money recently, but who knows at that point? Well, you're going to have money coming off the books. Simeon's deal is only for a few more years. At that point, you'll have his money to free up there. I think Langford probably is the guy I would peg for that money. As far as the rest of the money there, Jock Peterson's going to be coming off the books. Other players that make a little bit of money are going to be coming off the books. I think Young, if he's able to stay healthy, will easily be able to be re-signed. If he doesn't stay healthy, then his contract's going to be cheaper anyway. If Carter gets to the ceiling he expects, he might be the guy that ultimately leaves in free agency because center fielders don't usually have as long of a career. The wear and tear on him might be a little bit tougher there. Jaden, welcome in. Appreciate you joining us. IP, those of you who are just joining us for the first time, make sure you guys hit that subscribe button. Follow us on X at UpsideSN and on Facebook, Upside Sports Network. What's Jason Dominguez's potential? We're talking superstar still potential there, the home run power, those kinds of things. But those are lofty expectations for him. Just getting a solid footing underneath him, a solid start to the season is what I'd be looking for him, and just a good year. I think if he has a year kind of like Wyatt Langford did this past season, I think that's what you'd hope for as a Yankee fan, maybe a little bit better than that if you're hoping he has a little bit higher potential. But, I think Aaron Judge, potential is there, but I don't want to give him that kind of a pressure. I think there's less than a 1% chance that he reaches that level, but I think Dominguez has that within him to be that type of a player, depending on how good he actually is on that Yankees roster. Do you think trades are pretty much done or until close to the deadline? No, actually, I think we're going to see a bevy of trades here as we get closer to spring training and during spring training. I think the Padres are good for probably 3 of them. I think the Mariners are good for a couple. I think the Rangers are going to try to bring in a Jordan Montgomery type to help out that rotation. I think the Mets are good for 1. I think the Dodgers are good for a couple as they try to consolidate their roster a little bit. Yankees, I think, are good for 1. I think we're going to see tons of trades before we get closer to the spring training and to the start of the regular season. Let's see here. Tucker staying in Texas. This time blue, comma. I would hope for him. He would have to fill in for Adolis Garcia. That would mean Adolis goes elsewhere in the offseason, but I wouldn't rule it out completely. I think their priority will be adding pitching first, and if they have an opportunity for Tucker, that would be a possibility as well. Lucas, are we expecting 20 reliever deals in the next 48 hours? I would say we're expecting at least a couple. 20 sounds a little rich. Maybe for the week, 20. There's only like 50 of them on the board total. I would expect in the next couple of weeks, probably 40 of those guys to sign. Rafe, I hope Garcia can bounce back. I feel like he's going to be gone this offseason or next. Going to have a special spot in my heart for destroying the Stros in 23. I agree there pretty much entirely. IP, do you think the Yankees will add an infielder before the start of the season? I do. You like Valdez or Castillo over Cease? I would as well, just because Cease is going to hit free agency. Valdez is going to hit free agency, but I think you can have a chance to re-sign him at a better number than Dylan Cease. Graham, the one that will hopefully follow Dominguez will have a higher ceiling, Spencer Jones. Yes, but I think a lot of that is manufactured by the New York media. I think he's a good player, but people have called him little Aaron Judge. I think that's lofty expectations for a player who's never really proved it at the major league level. That's way too much pressure for a young player. I'd rather allow them to kind of grow as on their own and just see how they develop. Maybe Spencer Jones is the long-term answer at first base if they're unable to sign Vlad Guerrero Jr. for agency next year. Rafe, do we need Monty? We have like 7 starters, don't we? I mean, injury risk with most of them, but still, yes, you need innings. Right now, you're counting on 120 innings out of 5 different starters. That's not enough. You need another starting pitcher there. Montgomery at least will give you the innings, and hopefully he can get back to the level of performance that he was with the Cardinals, Yankees, Rangers. I think last year was the aberration, if you will. The poor start to the season, the off-season program at the Boris camp, all those kinds of things, how things just kind of snowballed with there in Arizona. Getting him back with Mike Maddox hopefully will get him back on the right track and at least give the Rangers some much-needed innings in that rotation. Say you get the Diamondbacks to kick in, say, $15 million for 1 year. That means the Rangers would be eating about $7 million of that contract. You send out Ezekiel Duran, and boom, there you go. Can Sebastian Walcott break into the majors by 20? I doubt it. I think he breaks into the majors at the end of the 26th season and is on the club during the 27th season. Could you see D-Rod coming home back to the Bronx? I could. They still need bullpen help. Can Jason Dominguez hit 30 homers at a rookie? I wouldn't doubt it. And why don't the Mets trade for Ryan Presley? I just don't think they would take on that salary for 1 year. I think that there wouldn't be I don't think there's really a match there between the two teams. I think there is a match for a team like the Tigers because of the interest from A.J. Hinch. I think the guy that they already brought in Minter as their eighth inning option is where they're going to spend their money in that bullpen right now. But I still think the Mets add another one. I just don't think they're willing to spend north of $10 million for another bullpen piece. Alrighty, appreciate you guys joining us. We just crossed the 1 hour threshold. If you guys wouldn't mind hitting that like and subscribe. A lot of good football to watch today. Really looking forward to the Bills-Ravens anyway. That should be absolutely fantastic. About to head to lunch with the folks. So I appreciate all you guys joining us, following us on X anyway, at UpsideSN, and on Facebook, Upside Sports Network. Thank you guys so much for all the interest in our channel and helping us grow so much. It's been a lot of fun talking with you guys today. And again, if you guys missed the headline today, 4 years, $72 million, Tanner Scott, the best reliever on the market, goes to, you guessed it, the Los Angeles Dodgers. Thank you. Welcome. That was my first question. Like, subscribe, tuned in, all notifications on. Was Sasaki signing the nail in the coffin for Flaherty to L.A.? I think so. I think Flaherty is going to have significant interest in a team like Toronto. Saw some headlines about Toronto still actively pursuing starting pitching this morning. I would not be surprised if they brought in Flaherty or Nick Pivetta. They've been connected to both of those guys. Sub-Zero, welcome in. Who would want Marcus Stroman? I don't see him leaving. Several teams who need to take on some salary. Marlins. A's already did a little bit more by bringing in Jose Leclerc. I'm not sure how much more they really need to bring in. And then the Tampa Bay Rays are still looking to add on some salary. But I would guess the Miami Marlins for Stroman, unless the Yankees eat a lot of that contract, then it could really open up as far as where he could ultimately be traded. But if I had to guess a team for Stroman right now, I would say the Marlins, just to offload his salary. Dominguez isn't going to be close to Judge. I mean, like I said, that's lofty expectations. I'm just hoping for an all-star caliber player, or at least a very good regular player in that lineup. But Dominguez still a good young prospect and could reach that ceiling someday. You really think the Mets are done until the trade deadline? I think they're going to add one more piece to that bullpen. For the big moves, I think they are done, though. Graham, Jaden Arenado. Trying to catch your comment here. Arenado to the Bronx? I don't know about that one. Unless they offload Stroman and get the Cardinals to eat a significant chunk of Arenado's salary, then I think we see something there. Hope you're wrong. Have a great day. Cruise control. All right. Thank you, guys. Appreciate all you guys joining us today. We'll see you guys later on this evening. Make sure you guys turn on your notifications. Hit that like and subscribe. And thank you guys for liking and subscribing to the video. I really do appreciate it. And we'll see you guys later on this evening. Y'all have a great one out there.